Everyone. We are here. The Death Chicks are here, and that means it must be Thursday at 3 o'clock on the East Coast. And I guess it's 12 o'clock where you are, Misty, but it's 3 o'clock somewhere. It's the Death Chicks. Yes, what was that?
Oh, it's 1 o'clock here, 1 o'clock Mountain.
Okay, so forget time zones. I don't know what I'm talking about, but the Death Chicks are here. We're thrilled to be here. And another adventure, as it generally is when we meet so many interesting people on this show with so many different perspectives. So the Death Chicks, what we're all about, if you're joining us for the first time or maybe just the second or so, we are a forum to talk about all things death, dying, grief, and loss. And we want to open this forum to talk about the kinds of things that many people don't talk about on a regular basis, and many people, if they do talk about them, are maybe uncomfortable. Maybe it's a little clunky to get started with those kinds of conversations. So this could be like your practice forum, a place where we can sort of examine and explore all those things. The other things that we wanted to explore are our fears and our limitations, maybe anything that gets in the way of us serving another who is facing the end of life, or maybe our own end of life, which, I don't know about you, but it's happening to all of us. So we might as well embrace it, and that's what we're about here, to really dive deeply into what does death mean. And we're also a show about perspectives. And when I say perspectives, I mean that it's not just one. It's maybe the perspective of the guest we have on, or maybe we have a series which seems to, in this case, be looking at after-death communication or near-death experiences. It's whatever shows up and whatever perspective that is we want to present. So it's multifaceted, and we hope you enjoy. So welcome, and I'm going to turn it over to Misty, my wonderful co-host with bittersweetblessing.com. I'm Patty Burgess with doingdeathdifferently.com, and take it away, Misty.
Thanks so much, Patty. Well, today on our show we have Margherita Crystal Lotus, and I'm very pleased Margherita was able to join us today. I met Margherita through a Google Hangout. Her and co-host Heidi Hornline interviewed me a good few months ago now, and they have a show, Connections Forum, where they talk about relationships and healing and all these kinds of wonderful things that everyone experiences in life before they die. So part of the work that our guest today, Margherita, does is helps people transform their lives emotionally. And from our perspective, once you do this work, this allows you to feel very good about the end of life and about all life. And as much as we're about death, we're also about living. So when we get to the end, we want to be happy and have a great time. So Margherita, she's an intuitive life and business mentor. She helps stressed out professional women restore their energy and have fulfilling relationships and watch their careers flourish. We had some really great pre-show talks with Margherita, and we learned that she is also a Buddhist, which was very interesting. And as Patty talks about the different perspectives, Margherita has said that perhaps she will be willing to share a little bit about the Buddhist perspective on death. Margherita's also written a book about crystals. She works with crystals, and Patty and I had the pleasure of hearing a little bit about her work with crystals. So she may also be sharing how crystals may help you if you are helping a loved one who's transitioning, or perhaps in your own preparations. So we're very much pleased that she's been able to join us, and these other things we found out about her besides her near-death experience are really going to help round out the show. So thank you very much for joining us, Margherita, and I'll pass it on to you.
Welcome, Margherita.
Yes. Did you have a particular question? I always respond well to questions, but if I don't have a question, I don't know what to say.
That's never my problem. If you give me the floor, I always know what to say. I'll start us out. I'm I'm curious how you came to this work, and I know that the work you do in terms of helping women, because I do think that there's some places where it translates to end of life. Had you ever made that connection before, or are we making that for you now? And can you share maybe where that would fit at end of life with the kind of healing work you're doing for your clients?
Yes, for sure. I have long known that this lifetime wasn't the first lifetime for me. When I started to research and study healing, which was maybe 15 years ago, formally, I discovered that it's very easy. It's very easy to actually adopt the worldview that, yes, we have a moment here, then we can go away to another dimension, and then we come back and we were reborn. And I really think that this is how it is. I come from a Christian background, of course, from Sweden, Lutheran, and then, you know, we have this one lifetime, and then we die, and then that's the end of it, and then we have to repent for our sins in some kind of hell. I never believed in that. I really never believed in that. My grandmother, who is my favorite grandmother, that was the first person that I knew that was close to me who died, and she had difficulties, long sickness and stuff like that. I was 17 years old at the time, and I think that I heard her. I think she is still alive inside of me, and I know she's passed on to other realms and even being reborn, for sure. Maybe not on the earth, maybe on other places. So I'm not worrying about that.
That's pretty neat that you're not worrying, because I know there's a lot of folks who we talk to who do worry about their loved ones. What's happened to them? Are they okay? Do they even exist? So you created this worldview. Was that a hard-fought worldview, kind of like pulling away from other views that you kind of had to get away from, or was this just sort of a natural evolution for you?
Well, you see, I was so lucky. My parents, both are scientists. My father's passed away also, but my mother's alive, and they taught us. I'm oldest of 5 children, so what I was given from them was the curiosity, the scientific research, the art. There's many artists in my family. I'm not a very good artist, maybe, but you know, I use art to express in many different forms. And like a person like me who has this kind of background, you don't shut down this openness to the universe. And I'm recalling an incident when I was 8. So this is not my death story. This is something that came before, that I had a dream. I had this nightmare, like this is a big monster was chasing me, and I had that recurring for several nights. And then always put my blanket over my head, and it was so hot under the blanket, but I was safe under the blanket. But that particular night, I heard a voice inside of me, Margherita, turn around. Look at this. So I turned around and I tried to look that monster in the eye. What I saw was bright light, very bright light. Maybe like the background you have there, Misty, behind you, sort of golden. And then far in the distance was this little tiny dot that's disappearing, and disappeared. That was the monster.
Wow,
And I have never dreamt on that monster again. And I realized we actually can affect what our experiences are by focusing on something and taking and investigating what goes on in the mind, because the mind is above matter. The mind is what survives. And I really felt like that. I know when I was a little girl, I looked out on the window because I had a double bed, right? And then I could see the stars. I saw the sky, and I was just mesmerized by that. And I wondered, how does it work? Why am I here? How does it work? And then my father gave me a star map. I was studying that star map, you know, well, that's the constellation. I learned the names and could identify them. So it's like I was always very curious, very curious.
I think that curiosity holds many people in really good stead. And I love the fact that you say that this science mind, or at least the gifts that your family gave you, were of openness and curiosity. Because I think I've met a lot of people who are very, very shut down, and I would say fundamental, not fundamentalist, but it's kind of a comfort to them to have one very narrow worldview, and you know, that's okay if it's a comfort to them. But to me, that feels like a box. So I love that we've got these options out there to explore.
Yeah, and the fact that you can't come from a family of scientists, so your background is in life with your parents is very much in the left brain, and it's interesting that the work you've come to do and share with the world is more in the right brain, the artistic and creative, and you're an intuitive, and you work with crystals, so it's and there's some art in there too, so it's a very nice balance that I think you bring.
Well, I'm very grateful because there was many artists in my mother's family, and my father's mother, which was my grandmother that I talked about before, she was also an artist, did beautiful watercolor landscapes and stuff. And I still have some here in Canada. I brought them with me. And so it's like I was very intellectual when I was a child. And then, of course, with puberty and stuff like that, the emotionality got the best of me. I couldn't really handle that. And then I had all kinds of, you know, I couldn't handle the emotional part. And of course, in my first marriage and the second marriage, whatever, it intensifies the, you know, you're arguing, you have problems in there, and you're not happy with. And this honed me to actually start studying healing, to actually integrate the left and the right brain. And luckily, I have very good teachers, and also some experiences that also propelled me into that space. And I'm still learning. I'm certainly not fully learned yet.
Yes, wonderful. You mentioned that when you hit puberty, the emotions got very large, as they do in puberty, and coming from the scientific left brain family, that might have been overwhelming, and as puberty is, and that brings me to the story that you shared with me, and your near-death experience, and when you were in the lake, and you said you were quite competitive, and this may have what led you to the experience that you said it was life-changing. So do you feel like sharing that now?
So imagine this. This is like I was 15 or 16 or 14. I don't really know the date clearly, but it's around there. And then my siblings and I, we swam in the lake. It was like at the sea, the Baltic Sea. There's 2 islands between each other, and then there was a little stretch over to the other island, about 200 meters or something like that, and it was about 8 meters or 6 meters deep at the deepest place. And then we say, you know, let's see who can swim the longest, you know, like a little competition, right? And we usually do that kind of thing, right? But this day, the water was very calm. It was nothing happening. It was like, so then we went in and swam, and of course I'm gonna get in there and swimming. I'm swimming and 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 swimming. And then I sort of expanded. It was like I stopped swimming, I think, with my body, but I was in another place. It's like I was just floating. And it was lovely. It was lovely. And it was like I was in some other world. It was like, it was like it was something that I really hadn't experienced before. And it was light. It was lovely. It was like a shimmer somehow. And then I must have stayed there for a long time. I don't know. And then something in me said, it's like a voice said, Margherita, you have to come out of the water. You have to go up. Okay, all right, okay. So I'm trying to get my body and my arms to follow me. And I tried to get up as fast as possible, and I hit my head on the bottom. And then I came back to the reality under the water, and I saw where I was. Okay, I'm underwater. I hit my head, and then I went up, and then I came to the surface, and I was almost to the other side. And then I saw my sisters and my brother there, and I was swimming to them. And when I saw the look on their faces, that's what hit me, that what they were so worried about. They didn't know what happened. They was like, they were scared what happened to me. Can you understand that? Like,
yeah.
And then sort of integrating that experience, it made me think, okay, I was this, why would I have to do this in case I would not have been there? And that opened my heart, and I thought, why did I do that? Why did I have to be so achiever-minded? And another result of this experience was I lost all fear of death. I have not feared death after that. So you could say that that's kind of a death, but I definitely was not in my body when this happened. I mean, I was somewhere else. And I have another experience, like an out-of-body experience, that is different from this experience I had. And that was, I was in my bed, and then I could see myself. I was feeling myself up in the corner, and I'm looking down on my body. So I know I wasn't in my body. But that was a completely different feeling. It was altogether different. It wasn't the same. The first one was a real wake-up call.
Do you know, Margherita, what initiated? Do you think it was that intense achiever competition that you were experiencing? You didn't encounter any obstacle that pushed you out of your body or anything? It was
No. I just was swimming and swimming, you know. I maybe haven't overdo it. I wanted to get to the other side, and then all of a sudden it cut out.
And there was no fear, as some people would feel like they were in a whole different place. There was no fear.
No fear at all. No fear at all. The first thing of a fear state was when I was worried about my siblings. Like, because they were just, our mother wasn't there. We were on that island by ourselves, I think. You know, I'm the oldest one. I should be able to be more responsible. Something like that. And that made a little impact on my mind, myself, and my heart. And I think that opened my heart.
And when you say that opened your heart, what would you say you came away with? I know you mentioned there's no fear of death, but was there an openness to new ways of being, or what does open mean?
I think it opened me to actually notice other people, because of course as a left brain kid, intellectual, it's all about what my thoughts are, and not so much about other people, because I didn't have such a clear idea about how other people was experiencing life. I was just looking out of my eyes, and so it was a wake-up call from that point of view.
And do you think, like you said, when you came up and you saw the look, it seems to me like you can really recall the look on your siblings' faces. And do you think that maybe that went like directly to the heart, and would you say that you felt for the first time their concern for you?
I think so. I mean, I must have experienced some concern as a kid, right? You know, when you're falling, and I was a kind of like a tomboy, right? Falling and climbing up in trees and all kinds of things. But this is the only time I actually experienced this kind of thing.
You know what it sounds? Something, the word empathy came to mind, like all of a sudden moving from very self and disconnected to open and empathetic, feeling, because you just mentioned feeling the feelings of somebody else. And when you're intellectual and only looking out of your own lens, that's a hard thing to do. That's really a hard thing to do. Excuse me.
Yeah, and then of course I got lots of other lessons in my marriages, so went through that like this emotional terror jungle, you know, and I mean I own it, and I mean I called it forth because I think that we're responsible for all things that happens in our life. We attract it, right? I mean, you attract somebody and they do this to you, and then you attract somebody else and then they do this to you, or I do that to them, and it's like a game back and forth. And then in the cleanup of that, which I guess called karma, right? You have to realize and own every single shred of every single action, and so that's why healing was the natural outcome of all of these experiences I've had in my life.
You mentioned it. Go ahead.
Oh, well, a few things I wanted to bring up. I love it. We're going in the direction of healing, and I want to follow up on that. But to bring it back to the drowning, the Near-Death Experience Research Foundation, I was doing a little research, and they found that in all the people they interviewed, there was no frightening experiences reported by drowning victims. And I find that really interesting, because I've always thought that if I was in the water and I couldn't breathe, it would be very frightening. But in all of them, it reports the same. So I found that very fascinating. And also that, you know, we've had 2 guests now reporting this. So, and I think it's touching me very close to home, because we recently had a young boy die here in our community. There was 2 of them. And there was a canoe on the shore, and they went out, and they were able to resuscitate one of them, but the other one was lost. So I think it's very peaceful to know that he went in a peaceful way. Yeah. And the other thing I'm wondering is, from your experience, you mentioned your father passed, and did this near drowning, near death experience, whatever it is, whatever you want to call it, did that have any play into how you experienced your father's death, or the death of
Definitely,
other in general?
definitely. He died of cancer, right? So
Mm-hmm.
this was a number of years later, and the thing about my father is he knew like 14 months before that he would die very soon because he was a doctor and he had the very rare skin cancer disease, which is, as a dermatologist, he was kind of, see, yeah, I got this disease, right? But he
Wow.
always know that he was going to die very soon. So what he did was to come all over here to Canada and visit me. And at one point he says, he tried to see, like, there was an issue there, and he says, I hope you don't hold that against me. And so we had a completion of emotions from his side, and he was making sure that he had completed everything that was between any one of us siblings and other people too, I think. And then 6 months later, I visited Sweden, and this was 2 months before his actual death. And he said he was really not thinking that there was something after death because he had had another operation a few years earlier, and then he went under the what you call it, the
Anesthesia.
anesthesia, and he had lost consciousness of what's there. It was the first time in his life that had happened, right? Even though he was a doctor. And then so he had assumed that after death there is nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And so this was what he believed.
Mm-hmm.
And this is kind of interesting because I have, even at that time, I knew that this wasn't my first lifetime. I have been coming back or even get images of some kind of lives before, even if it could be imaginations or whatever. But I really believe that we are just a little, it's just like a little curriculum. We are here on the earth or any other place in this form to learn specific lessons. And then we go out again in the void, and then we come back in to something else. Maybe my cat, maybe a great teacher, or maybe the president of the United States. Who knows? I hope I won't come in.
That's a good cosmic aspiration. If you
Well,
must have
I hope I'm never going to be that. But
who really would want that job anyway?
no.
My preference would be the cats.
Yeah. It was actually a story about a Rinpoche, a Tibetan Rinpoche, who he was meditating so well, but then he died very peacefully, and then it was reported that he had returned as a cat because he had meditated very well, but he hadn't ascended or like the cat meditate, right? It can, but you also have to have realization as you're doing it. And so this is just a story that
I'd come back as my cats because they're really well taken care of. In fact, we just finished building a compound so they can't get out into the busy street. So there, yeah. If that's not enlightenment, I'll take it.
Well, I don't think that's enlightenment, and I can't propose to tell you what enlightenment is, but there is probably a point. I feel that there's probably a point where you can choose if you can come back in another lifetime. And when you have that power to actually choose that out of compassion, for example, to teach other people, then you can come back, and that's the story of the Buddha, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I'm not a Buddhist teacher or any kind of thing like that, but I think that the Buddhist faith is explaining a lot of different things, especially about death, And I find that it's really reassuring that there's something you can do. And then the idea of the karma, for example, is that, okay, you have to clean up, heal these things now so that you can have a better life next time, or even choose which life you want.
It makes sense to me. I think it's, the Tibetan Book of the Dead, if you've ever been exposed to that, does a wonderful job. Kind of, it's almost like a soul navigation book that, the Buddhists believe at death, where they have people kind of chanting and helping to guide that soul. And even if that is fantasy or it's imagination, as you said, it's lovely compared to just, kind of whatever happens. In fact, I hope one of the guests we have on here I've talked about is Bill Buellman, and he does a lot of work with out-of-body experiences, and he very much talks about these different levels and these different planes, and that there is much that we can do about end of life versus, so many people where it's going to happen to everybody, that's their first foray into experiencing what might be after. And, his contention is that we can go out and we can visit and we can check it out and we can really direct our soul if we choose to. But, it's again a belief system. And when kind of like with your dad, and it's interesting. He probably had a lot of conflicting things going on as a scientist. Again, that's very left brain. And what I kind of gleaned in there is that he was a dermatologist who got skin cancer.
Yes.
Right. That in itself has to be an interesting kind of dynamic for someone to take in when they've devoted their life work to that. Was there anything around that you know or can share?
Well, my father had a big heart, and at his funeral it was 400 people, and most of those people were patients who he has healed. And I was so amazed because the funeral was on in an extreme winter storm in a remote area of Stockholm, and still 400 people showed up. And so that tells something about what a great man my father was, actually.
Isn't that it's so interesting, too, to see our parents through the eyes of other people? Yeah. I found that the first time I saw that was when my mom retired from 25 years as a school social worker, and I went to her retirement party, and your mom is your mom, and you have those dynamics that you have with her, and we had our struggles in teenage years, and, there would be that same story or that look I would see over and over again. I'd be like, oh, my gosh, Mom. But then I got to be in a world where other people thought that Dagmar Burgess was just, over the moon, and I got to see my mom through other people's eyes, and I thought, to me, that was kind of a death in a way, and a really good death. It was a death of these hardened thoughts, these I have all the answers, sort of that myopic view that you talked about. And at this point, I was 27 years old, so I thought, well, in your 20s, you kind of think you know everything anyway.
Oh, yeah.
And it was a beautiful time. I really could look at her so differently. And I think from my age, 27, and then the next milestone for that, because if there were any tension, if there was any kind of relationship in my life that started out more tension-filled and then took the bell curve on to unbelievable beauty and healing and friendship right till the last moment, it would have been my relationship with my mom. So as you mentioned this now, I'm starting to get this picture of kind of an unfolding and a unveiling of these ideas and beliefs and ways that I looked at things that got to change, and it didn't have to happen at a funeral. It happened at these other life events. So very, very neat.
I want to mention something too, that Book of Dead the Tibetan Book of Dead, it's only one kind of book that's far more vast, right? But what it describes is all the hell beings and creatures that you meet, and you get scared of them after the death, right? That's just your own emotions. And so if you purify those emotions prior to death, then you don't have to meet them there. You already met them. And then you can see with clear eyes other beings who also are souls in transition. And this is the beauty of this kind of mindset. You know, we can choose what we want to believe, of course, but it's what would you like to believe in? Would you like to believe in that you are an eternal sinner who never can get redemption, or that you are a sinner and then you get forgiveness every week, but then you go out and do it again, and then you have to go into purgatory, right? This is the same. It's just different spins on the different religions to say that you. Basically, every religion says you have to be good, and then you have to be honest, you have to be this, and all of these things. But when the person themselves realizes what I'm about to do now is not ethical, it doesn't, I cannot harm another person. If I have that and I want to help somebody and I help them, then there is sort of a healing. And that's why I'm try to help people who ask me. You can't heal anyone. The person themselves has to heal themselves, but you can be of assistance, right? So I teach my students that they say, oh, well, I heal that person, I heal that person. No, that's not the case. But you can be that as a support person, as a facilitator, and then provide the energy. And that's why I use some crystals, right, to amplify my energy, because we have life force energy available, and we can channel life force energy. And then when we are in healing and the person is grasping and they don't know what to do, we can provide them the juice, the energy, so that they can, then they can have insight, they can make a choice, they can actually decide, okay, I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm not going to suffer here anymore. I'm going to leave that thought from over there. I'm not going to engage in that thought from that cord over there. I'm going to leave that. I can recover that energy part of me that I lost due to something, right? And then call that back, and then it's like guiding a person to actually let go and reclaim that what was theirs. And it makes a huge difference, huge difference.
Yeah, I kind of see that as like, as we grow and develop and live through life and each of our own unique experiences, we may hold some baggage or some unresolved emotional issues that continue to pop up again and again unless they're resolved. So the process you're speaking of, from my perspective, was it brought to mind that our lives is almost a preparation for death. So you know, things come on us, and then at some point we realize, okay, we need to release, and if we're lucky enough, at the end, we will be free of anything we've experienced or held, and that will all be released, and then we'll be prepared at the end of our journey and feeling free, and we'll transition over with that feeling. And it sounds like your father was able to make that, or to make that with his family. And I think it's wonderful that the work you're doing and any healing work that people do helps them to not only live life now, but at the end of life, the transition over. So that's what it brought to me.
It's very cool that this topic is up, because life is for learning and living, I think, and then death is just a moment.
Yeah.
Life is for living and learning, and death is just a moment before the next life comes.
Yeah.
And so to fear death is futile. It's like, why would I getting fear to get out of the door of my house? It's the same thing. Like, I just open the door and go out, and then I can see something else.
And you're still you just have a different perspective.
Yes. And then if we clean up our stuff, our emotions, that's tangled very, very much. I mean, there is so many emotional entanglements, and also belief system that sits in the mind, right? No, it's false to do that. No, this is shameful. This is guilt, and it's like it's not so easy to let go of beliefs, especially if there is religious belief that is harmful. And not all beliefs are harmful, of course, right?
And sometimes, even though it doesn't make sense to us intellectually, if we were told it enough as a child, that creates the neural pathway in the brain, and at some level we believe it, and it may be an unconscious belief. So there may be unconscious beliefs that we learned when we were young. And a belief, from my understanding and reading, is just something you've been told or heard enough. Your parents or maybe a teacher told you, and then it creates the neural pathway, and it becomes part of your system. And as we grow older, and though intellectually we may know different, that belief is still within us and maybe driving us subconsciously. So it's very interesting that the work that you do, how it lends to releasing all this.
You see, the hell realms, and the idea of hell itself after life, I think that's a symbol for our subconscious, because we live in hell all the time. I call it the comfort hell.
Comfort hell.
So people who doesn't want to change, they live in a comfort hell. They have everything under control, and whoops, something happens, and they crash, because they hadn't wanting to come out of that situation, seeing that the world is actually bigger than this little happy comfort zone that I'm in. So celebrate, I would say, celebrate any kind of things that awakens you. Celebrate an unusual experience, even though you almost lost your life, because that can move you forward. And then at the final, that moment, I think that will help you.
You kind of, what you're saying is, it's almost like you want to kind of leave everything on the table. You want to have it all spent before you go. And you know, as you were speaking earlier, what brought to mind to me is this really delicious cycle of life, when in 80, 90, 70, or however many short years most of us get. I can't really speak to, early deaths, but, you were talking about your intellectual self and something happening that created empathy or compassion, and then as you go on, you have these other struggles in marriages, that kind of thing, and then you have more learning. And then as we age, and this is why I think, not that there's anything wrong with trying to keep young and keep healthy, but as long as it's keeping young and keep healthy, that's one side. But if it's keeping aging at bay, there's so much wisdom that comes with aging, and there's so much wisdom that comes with when the body doesn't do what it did when it was 20, then there's something else that can flourish and sort of fill that place. And I think what that is, wisdom, maybe openness. I mean, I know many people shut down as they get older, but I think there's many people who open as they get older too. So, the closer we get to death, the more delicious it can get, I think. And most people don't see it that way. It's like, every birthday gets scary for them. Yep, and the shrinking, if we can sort of meet those, every new birthday with like, wow, what adventure will it be this year? And maybe even set and chart a path that way.
Mm-hmm.
It can be exciting, even as our body's not doing what it's, we wish it would do anymore. At least mine. I speak for mine, so.
Well, there's lots of things you can do, and if you keep a positive attitude and see each moment as a gift, then you become the gift.
Mm-hmm.
Like we talked about this little discomfort with you, Patty, there in the beginning. Do you feel something like that now?
No, it was interesting. What Margherita is talking about is I was really under the weather all day, and was thinking that I might have to do the pause button or the fall out of the picture kind of thing. But and in just 2 seconds, Marguerite kind of had me breathe and kind of take it all in and let this tension, whatever it was, drain out. And camera went on, and la la la, here I am. So
I'm glad.
And there was that tension beforehand when you're not feeling well, and you have to be on the air, and that kind of can make you feel a little more constricted, make you feel worse. And it kind of like what you shared with me is a metaphor for what we're talking about in general. Let's clean it up before the show, is what you said. Let's clean it up before the show, and then you can go on and enjoy yourself. Let's clean up life and all those entanglements right now before we die, and then you can go off and have an adventure there too.
It's as easy as that. Press the button.
Boop.
Oh, look at that! I like the visual. I like the visual. I just want to say a quick shout out to. Or go ahead.
I made this button for Mark, Heidi's husband, because we talked about the easy way out.
And Heidi and Mark, at least Mark's with us tonight because they said they had no tango, so they're spending their evening with us. How about that?
Yeah, I want to say a quick shout out to Heidi. Heidi's with us here, and I'm guessing Mark's with her. And also to Rain, who's just popped on, so that's great. Hi, Rain. And we have only about 10 minutes left, but I let them know if they have any questions, or they're welcome to jump on in for a little bit if they feel like it. And there's I want to show something that Heidi wrote here. Let's see if I can pull it up. Where'd it go now?
Is that the Comfort Hell one?
Yeah, can you pull it up? For some reason it's not responding.
Here we go. Let's try and pull it up. There it is.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Heidi shares the Comfort Hell. Yeah. Ken Wilbur says we are born into unconscious hell and then live in conscious hell, which needs the healing you are talking about, Margherita. Now, does that mean that you have margaritas to help the healing, or you go to Margherita to help the healing? I think both work, but maybe for her work you want to be a little more conscious than that.
Well, I think about the conscious hell and the unconscious hell. It's how you view it.
It's all
how
it is.
How you view
all
it.
and how you look at it.
Okay, so here I see, oh my God, this is so much difficulty. And poor me, right? You can have that attitude, right? And then you can say, yeah, I'm going to climb that top. I'm going to go this way. I'm going to overcome this. Yay!
Yeah.
Oh,
seeing the difficulties and challenges. Yeah. Yeah, I think I just wrote a blog post about that, about seeing every challenge as exciting. Oh, something else I can overcome, and something else how am I going to get through this one? And seeing it as excitement and fun, and you portrayed that wonderfully. Yeah, it's all in how we look at it.
It's like making whatever is a want to instead of a have to, because what a different vibe and energy around when you want to do something than when you feel like you have to. I don't know, that to me has always been one of those things, like what out of this scenario would be really interesting and curious, even if it's not my preference, although maybe it is, maybe I chose it.
Well, I can choose it, right? Then when I have, I choose to address the challenges, I can take the challenges in the order I want, and I'm in control of that. And even if I fail, so what? I can ask for help.
That's right. That's right.
And we have you guys to help you out too, right? If you're near that, you have help.
We're your gals.
There's always help. Yeah, there's always help. If you're having a hard time, you just got to look around and reach out your hand, open your mouth. Yeah, there's help there. Oh.
That's true. Also, Leslie Marsh just popped on from Scotland, late but not that late yet, so she says. So she just popped on, and it's so great to see this international community come alive. Like I thought only death happened in the United States until I got together with Misty, and then I was like, oh my God, you have death too? You have death up there in Canada? I couldn't believe it.
Well, I have to tell you the truth, guys, that death is a universal thing.
Really? Oh my gosh. My whole business just expanded.
Yes, you see, you already adopted the positive lifestyle.
There you go.
This is great.
Cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching.
I wanna share. There's a show coming up, and Heidi shared this with me. And Heidi right now is looking outside with Mark. They're lying outside watching the orange moon rise. I don't know why I can't get these comments up there, but anyhow, so she says her keyboard is dark, so she won't be. She's not typing too much, or she's got a few typos in there. But she shared with me a really cool event coming up, and it's from the Integral Spiritual Practice, and it's coming up Sunday at 10 a.m. Pacific, and it's Ju Po Dennis Kelly Roshi is the guest, and the topic is falling in love with death. So Ju Po is the 83rd patriarch in his lineage of Rinzai Zen Buddhism. And anyhow, it looks like a very, very interesting story. So if you're interested, I just wanted to put that shout out there, and you can email me and I'll send you the link, or Heidi has it as well. So I'm hoping to join that, and it fit very well with our guest Margherita, who has some Buddhism going on there too. And it's really, I love. I've studied cross-cultural religion, so I always enjoy it when I guest bring that little bit of different perspective than the mainstream that we're used to hearing. So thank you so much, Margherita. I feel like it's been great. And the Tibetan Book of the Dead, that was something too. I think I was in my 20s when I read that, and might be worth picking up again.
That's right. That's right. And she says, Leslie Marsh says, we have death here also in Scotland. Well, how about that? I'm so surprised. In many ways, usually in the cold, though, she says.
Oh, okay.
Scotland. There you go.
Unfortunately, I have to tell you that the moon that I photographed at the peak of the full moon yesterday is now dead. It's no more full.
It's no more. Well, you have preserved.
Come and gone.
Moons die too.
The moon dies too. Yeah.
Yeah. We all come and go. It's a cycle, right? It's all over in nature. It's a cycle. Things live and they die, and yeah.
So the people it's like the moon is full, and then it goes down, and there's no moon, and then it comes up again. It's a circle.
That's right. And the thing is, one can always count on that, so when you think that your life is over or something has taken a hold of you that you think you'll never get through, when you can just consider, even if you can't think about, wow, 24 hours, this will all be different. And to me, sleep is like a reset button. You know what I mean? Like, no matter what's happening, you get to go to sleep, you push that reset button, and then you're all brand new and fresh and all kind of like doughy out of the oven again the next morning,
Doughy out. To rise. Doughy, so we can rise again. We'll rise, and then we'll...
Well, have you ever, and I'm sure, now I'm not a bio mom, but the thing I really like, this is about with my animals, but with kids too, like when they first wake up, aren't they all fresh and chewy and doughy? Like you could just, like when little babies wake up. That's what I recall. I haven't eaten many babies, but like they.
Oh my goodness.
Wow, I feel better.
Well, there's something about that freshly waking up child thing. There is, but what comes out of their mouth is always a surprise. You know,
That's
it could
right.
be like, you know, getting up on the wrong side of the bed or the right side of the bed. You never know. I have a 6-year-old. You never know what's going to come out of their mouth.
I bet.
It's always. It's great.
I bet.
Never thought of it as doughy, but it's always interesting.
There you go. Well, that moment before she opens her mouth, when she is just cuteness and just still kind of connected to source and she's all fresh,
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. That's that reset button, and then boom, whatever happens after that. But that's what I love about this cycle we're talking about. And even if you can't take it 24 hours, like minute by minute, if you can get through that and have a new perspective that next minute, I don't know. I think the world could look different at the end of a day as a result.
Yeah.
Thanks to you, you have brought happiness into your realm here today.
A little death happiness, yes, that's what we plan to do. We're all about death happy. So, yeah, we love that. Well, it looks like we've got only a few minutes left, so Misty, you're really good at remembering this part, so do you want to take us around and find out what's happening with everybody?
Sure. We usually just do a quick run around of what's going on for people. So Margherita, if you'd like to let us know if you have anything going on or how people can get in touch with you to learn more about you or maybe do some of your great work, go ahead.
Yeah, and so you can connect with me at my website, thecrystallotus.com, or you can ping me on Google+, Margherita Crystal Lotus, or you can come to our show, Connections Forum, which is airing at 10 a.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. CAT, I think, in Italy. And as you said, Heidi and I are co-hosts on that show, so it would be nice to hear you and see you on our shows some Thursdays at that time.
Mm-hmm.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Great stuff.
It's so great to have had you here, and you know, I liked when we said in the beginning, let's just wing it and see what happens, and you never know. I think winging it has turned out really, really well today, so I'm thrilled. You know, speaking of cycles of life, what's so interesting is on my website, both Doing Death Differently and teachingtransitions.com, which is more for the hospices, we have what we call spiral symbology. And there's a little note on there about spiral symbology, because when you look into the cosmos or you look into a flower and you look many places in the universe, you're going to see spirals. And the whole point of that, we were trying to think of what would we use to indicate that it continues, whether you believe in life after life or if it's just, you know, that 24-hour reset button we were talking about. Mm-hmm. So on my site at doingdeathdifferently.com, you can sign up for what we call the Daily Spiral. And the Daily Spiral are these just little tidbits of information, some of them funny, they're all death-related. You know, it could be funny, it could be sad, it could be heart-wrenching, but they're all there to kind of open us up. So come sign up for the Daily Spiral. It's free, and you get spiralized or inspiraled, I guess you could say.
That's a great one, Patty. Thanks a lot. That's a great one. And Patty does have she has got some great funniness to put in the mix, so I encourage everyone to pop on over and sign up. As for my site, bittersweetblessing.com, I'll talk a little bit about the symbology. I have a butterfly there, and someone created that for me, and I felt it was a really good representation.
Beautiful.
That's new beginnings. It's always symbolized new beginnings. So whatever loss you've experienced, whatever death, great loss it touches us so deeply, but it's such an opportunity to see things with fresh eyes. And when our world is flattened by a great loss, really we look at things with new eyes, and that's such a huge opportunity for growth. And so I encourage you to pop on over there and have a look and connect with me if it feels right. If you go to the live events tab, there is a little mini course I have there, Overcoming Fear, and I'm planning to do a live event around that free later this summer. So stay tuned and open your hearts. Margherita, thank you so much. It's been a great pleasure. So I think I'll hand it over to you, Patty. You usually take us out. Thanks,
right.
everyone.
I will take you out. Not of this world, but I will take you to this show. But we loved having you. Loved having you, Marguerite. So fun, so fun. So much to talk about on so many levels, and that's what this show is all about. So bring us your thoughts, your ideas. If you know of any other guests that want to talk about anything death-related, we'd love to talk with them and see what happens, see what comes up like we did today. And again, lots of thanks to my co-host, wonderful co-host, Misty, who always just makes it all work wonderfully and share her wonderful wisdom. So thank you. All right, we'll see you next week.
Okay.
Talk to you soon, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks again. Bye-bye.